بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. This is the fourth class, I believe, من سجود السهو. طيب، قال المصنف رحمه الله: ومن جال فكره قليلا في أمور الدنيا نقص ثوابه ولم تبطل صلاته. Whoever's mind wanders in the affairs of the dunya for a short while, then he has lost his reward, or at least he has lost some of his reward. However, his salah is not invalid and he requires no sujood al-sahw. ومن دفع الماشي بين يديه أو سجد على شق جبهته أو سجد على طية أو طيتين من عمامته فلا شيء عليه. Whoever is pushing someone with his hands due to the fact that he is standing in the place of sujood, whether this person is a kid or an adult standing in front of him, and so he pushes him a bit with his hand just so he can go into ruku' or go into sujood, then he requires nothing from sujood al-sahw. Similarly, someone who, due to whatever lack of space, is only prostrating on part of his forehead or on the side of his forehead, then there is nothing upon him. It counts as prostration. The person who is prostrating on one fold or two folds, as he says, one fold or two folds of his imamah, his turban. As we mentioned, it is not a condition for your skin to touch the floor, as it is in some other madhahib. However, the turban or whatever is being worn on the head should not be so thick as to completely prevent the head from touching, being near the floor. One fold or two folds is normal. Anything that is excessive in size would nullify his prostration. ولا شيء في غلبة القيء والقلس في الصلاة. Anyone who is overcome by vomit or other fluids emerging from his throat or his stomach, then it does not nullify his prayer and it requires no sahw from him. وسهو المأموم يحمله الإمام إلا أن يكون من نقص الفريضة. So any issue with the prayer of the ma'moom, the person in the congregation, he does not require sujood al-sahw, and the imam carries the prayer for him, except that it is something in an obligatory action, meaning someone who has missed a prostration, a sujood or a ruku'. If I miss one of these things while in a congregation, then the imam does not help me. However, if I miss a few light sunnahs, such as saying Sami Allahu liman hamida, Rabbana wa lakal hamd, such as doing tasbih or these light sunnahs, then the imam's prayer carries mine and I don't do any sujood al-sahw. The only instances in which I do it is if I miss an obligatory action, the details of which will follow. وإذا سهى المأموم أو نعس أو زُحِم عن الركوع وهو في غير الأولى. So if the person in the congregation, due to whatever reason, such as forgetting, such as being slightly asleep, being whatever reason that prevents him from going into the court with the imam, he has two options. The first one is وهو في غير الأولى فإن طمع في إدراك الإمام قبل رفعه من السجدة الثانية ركع ولحقه. So if the imam has not left from the second sujood of that rak'ah, he can catch up to his imam. So he missed the ruku' and his imam is in sujood. He can go into ruku', come back from ruku' and go into sajda and catch up with his imam. The second option is to leave that ruku' and to catch up with his imam, immediately go into sujood. وقضى ركعة في موضعها. So if he chooses that second option, then that rak'ah would be invalid for him because he missed an obligatory action. And so what he would need to do is after the salam of the imam, he would need to make up that rak'ah. وإن سهى عن السجود أو زحم أو نعس حتى قام الإمام إلى ركعة أخرى سجد إن طمع في إدراك الإمام قبل الركوع. So we talked about someone missing the ruku' due to forgetfulness or due to other reasons. Now we're going to talk about if he misses the sujood. So the deadline to catch up to the imam if you miss ruku' is the imam's second sujood. If the imam is still in the second sujood, you can catch up to it. You can make the ruku' come back and go into sujood. Now, if you miss the sujood, the deadline is the ruku' of the next rak'ah. So if I'm in the second rak'ah, or let's say I'm in the third rak'ah, and I missed the sujood for whatever reason, I'm just not focused, whatever reason, I missed the sujood, and the imam already gets up. As long as the imam has not gone into ruku', then I can catch up, I can do the sujood on my own and catch up to him. As long as the imam has not gone into ruku'. If he has gone into ruku', then I must make up that rak'ah. Similarly, وَإِلَّا تَرَكَهُ وَاتَّبَعَ الْإِمَامَ وَقَدَ رَكَعَ. Similarly, he can choose to leave that sujood and follow his imam immediately and make up that rak'ah. وحيث قضى الركعة فلا سجود عليه إلا أن يكون شاكا في الركوع. So if he makes up the rak'ah entirely, then he does not do any prostration. He does not do any sujood al-sahw except for doubt. So he does not do any sujood al-sahw for addition or subtraction, but he does do one for doubt if he has doubt regarding something that he did. إلا أن يكون شاكا في الركوع أو السجود ومن جاءته عقرب أو حية فقتلها فلا شيء عليه. Whoever is in the prayer and is approached by something harmful such as a scorpion or a snake or any other harmful thing. This is the examples he gives, a scorpion or a snake, but others also work. And he kills it, because it's harmful for him. If it approaches him, he could be harmed. So he's allowed to kill it in the prayer, and there is no sujood al-sahw. However, his prayer would be invalidated in two instances. إلا أن يطول فعله أو يستدبر القبلة فإنه يقطع. If he's busy with this animal, this scorpion, the snake, whatever, for so long that it's completely changing the prayer, then he just ends the prayer. If I'm spending an entire minute trying to kill the scorpion for whatever reason, then I just end the prayer and start over. And obviously there's no sin on me because I am doing something to protect myself from harm. Similarly, if during the process of getting rid of the scorpion or snake, he faces his back to the qibla, similarly he would have to end the prayer. ومن شك هل هو في الوتر أو في ثانية الشفع جعلها ثانية الشفع. Whoever is doubt. So we discussed Salat al-Shaf' wal-Witr. Al-Shaf' is 2 rak'ahs followed by taslim, followed by 1 rak'ah of al-Witr. Whoever is in doubt regarding whether he is in al-Shaf' or al-Witr, he's standing in the prayer, he's trying to remember, did I do taslim and end the Shaf'? Or am I still in al-Shaf'? Am I still in the second of al-Shaf'? Or am I in the first of al-Witr? Whoever is in doubt, he makes it the second of the shafa. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, that you're always, when you're in doubt about which rak'ah you're in, you always choose the earlier one. Except for the person who has waswasa, which we discussed at the time. And so he does prostration after the salam due to his doubt, which we discussed. And then he does witr, obviously. ومن تكلم بين الشفع والوتر ساهيا فلا شيء عليه وإن كان عامدا كره ولا شيء عليه. So it's makruh, it's disliked to speak between a shaf' and a witr. They should be done one after the other immediately. It's makruh to speak on purpose. And if it's done forgetfully, then in any way, whether he speaks on purpose or forgetfully, then there's nothing upon him. He has no sujood to do if he speaks between the prayer. It's simply makruh. والمسبوق إن أدرك مع الإمام أقل من ركعة فلا يسجد معه إلا لا قبليا ولا بعديا فإن سجد معه بطلت صلاته. So, المسبوق, if I join the prayer late and I catch less than one rak'ah. So I mean it's the last rak'ah of prayer, and I come to the prayer after he has gotten up from ruku'. So I missed that rak'ah, and I have to do the prayer on my own completely after the salam of the imam. If the imam does sujood al-sahw, I cannot do it with him. And if I do, then my prayer is invalid. Now, why is this? We discussed the legal maxim, al-ma'dum shar'an kal-ma'dum hissan. That which is absent in the sharia is absent altogether. Now, in the view of the sharia, a rak'ah, joining a rak'ah after ruku' is as if you have not prayed that rak'ah. So, if I join after the ruku', even though let's say he comes up from ruku' and I join the prayer then. I'm standing with him after ruku'. I go into sujood. I sit between the sajdatain. I go into sujood again and then into tashahhud and salam. All of that from a sharia perspective is absent. Meaning I have not prayed with the imam, technically speaking. And so, if the imam does sujood al-sahw, and I do sujood al-sahw with him, it's as if I'm doing sujood al-sahw, even though I have missed nothing. And as we said, someone who does sujood al-sahw without having missed for just no reason, he just does sujood al-sahw, then the prayer is invalidated. He has to have missed a sunnah mu'akkada or two sunnah khafifas. And therefore, the salah is invalid if I do sujood sahw with the imam, if I have joined after the last ruku'. And so if he goes into sujood sahw, you stay sitting and you wait for him to finish so you can go up and finish your prayer. وإن أدرك ركعة كاملة أو أكثر سجد معه القبلية وأخر البعدية حتى يتم صلاته. However, if he joins the prayer and he has been there for at least one full rak'ah or more than that. If he does sujood qabli, if he does sujood before the salam, then you do the sujood with him. If he does sujood after the salam, then you wait. You get up after his salam and you pray what you have missed. However much rak'ahs you've missed, you pray them, and then you do the sujood ba'di after your final salam. فيسجد بعد سلامه فإن سجد مع الإمام عاملا بطلت صلاته. If he prays and he doesn't, so in the situation we just mentioned, he is in masbuq and he joins the prayer. He has seen more than one rak'ah. He has been there for at least one rak'ah or more, and the imam does sujood ba'di. As we just said, he has to wait until he has finished the rak'ahs he has missed, and then he can do sujood ba'di. If he does the sujood ba'di with the imam on purpose here, then his salah is invalid. وإن كان ساهيا سجد بعد السلام وإن سهى المسبوق بعد السلام. So if he does it out of forgetfulness, then he prays sujood ba'di with the imam out of forgetfulness. Then he continues and he goes into the rak'ahs that he has missed, and after he has performed the rak'ahs he has missed, then he does the sujood ba'di again after his salam. وإن سهى المسبوق بعد سلام الإمام فهو كالمصلي وحده. So any mistake in the salah for the masbuq, so someone joins the prayer late, the imam does the salam, and then I go into prayer, I do the rak'ahs that I've missed. Any mistake I make in the rak'ahs that I've missed here, the one I'm doing on my own, then we treat them the same way we would treat them as if you made a mistake, as if you're praying alone. فهو كالمصلي وحده. He is like the person who is praying alone. If he does the mistake in the rak'ahs that he is making up. وإذا ترتب على المسبوق بعدي من جهة إمامه أو قبلي من جهة نفسه أجزاء قبلي. We discussed that someone who has to do both a sujood ba'di and a sujood qabli, then the sujood qabli takes precedence. If he misses something, that necessitates sujood before the salam. If he adds something, that necessitates sujood after the salam. If he does both of them, then he does only sujood before the salam. It takes precedence. So similarly, if the imam does something that requires sujood ba'di, again, we're still talking about the masbuq, the person who joined the prayer late. If the imam does sujood ba'di, and you do sujood qabli, you do something that requires sujood qabli in the rak'ahs that you've made up, then again, the sujood qabli takes precedence. So for example, you join in the fourth rak'ah. The imam, so you join for the complete fourth rak'ah. The imam does sujood ba'di. He does sujood after the salam. As we said, you would sit and wait for him to do the salam, and then you would get up and do the three rak'ahs on your own that you have missed. If in those three rak'ahs you miss a sunnah mu'akkada, such as you read out loud when you're not supposed to, now you have to do sujood qabli. Now you have a sujood before the salam that you've gained out of your own mistake, and you also have the sujood ba'di, the sujood after the salam that you have taken with you from the jama'ah that you have joined. In this case, if you have both of them, then the sujood qabli, the sujood before the salam, takes precedence, and it's the only one you do. Do these rulings change praying behind a Hanafi imam as they have, but all they have is sujood qabli? This would require a lot of detail in the fatwa, because theoretical fiqh is one thing, the fatwa is another. It would depend a lot on whether this masbuq person knows if the imam is Hanafi. Because if one of the madhahib, regardless of it's Hanafi or not, they only do sujood qabli, then the ma'moom who joined late, he might not know what the sujood is being done for, qabli or ba'di. So the clear opinion that would make sense is that he treats it as a sujood qabli, because there is no way for him to know. I guess there is scenarios in which he might know, such as he was watching them pray and then he joined. But that would require a lot of details, which I'm not sure about the answer. But the default is that he should treat it as sujood qabli, because in 99% of the scenarios, he's not going to know the mistake that the Hanafi imam did. He should always treat the imam as if the imam is praying the same madhab. In this scenario. Like, continuing. ومن نسى الركوع وتذكره ومن نسى الركوع وتذكره في السجود رجع قائما ويستحب له أن يعيد شيئا من القراءة. Whoever forgets to go into ruku', so he's standing and then he goes into sujood immediately without ruku'. If he remembers it while he is in sujood, then he goes back up standing. And it's recommended that he read something from Quran so that he can go into ruku' after the Quran. However, he doesn't need to read anything. He should go back into standing and then go into ruku' as he would do. So he remembers he missed ruku', he goes back into standing, he goes into ruku', and then continues from there. And he does a sujood ba'di. He does sujood after the salam because he has added actions to the prayer. ومن نسى سجدة واحدة وتذكرها بعد قيامه رجع جالسا. Whoever misses one sajda, so he does one He does one sajda and then he goes back into standing. He forgets the second one. If he remembers it after he has stood up, then he goes back into sitting and he prays the second sajda. It's important that he goes back into sitting because the obligatory action is to sit between the two sajdas. So if he goes back into sajda immediately, then he would have missed an obligatory action. However, as he says, إلا أن يكون قد جلس قبل القيام فلا يعيد الجلوس. If when getting up from the first sujood, the only sujood that he did did julus, he sat for a second and then went into qiyam, then he went into standing. In that case, he will go back into sujood immediately because the julus, the sitting, has been done. Now, the default is that you don't sit before going into qiyam. And that's why he mentions it as an exception rather than the general rule. The general rule is that if you're in sujood, you go into standing immediately. It's disliked for you to sit between these two. However, if you do happen to sit between these two, then upon remembering sujood, you would go back into sujood immediately. However, in the normal scenario, as we mentioned, in the normal scenario, if you go into sujood and then stand immediately and remember your second sajda, then you go back into the sitting position between the two sajdas, and then you go into salam. Sorry, into sajda. ومن نسى سجدتين خر ساجدا ولم يجلس ويسجد في جميع ذلك بعد السلام. Whoever forgets both of these sajdas, such as someone who goes into ruku' and then stands back up and then continues reading al-Fatiha as if he is in the next rak'ah. He would go back into sajda immediately. So again, he goes into ruku', he stands up, he remembers that he didn't go into sujood, he would go into sujood position immediately. وَلَمْ يَجْلِسْ, as he says, he does not sit. Because the sitting, as opposed to the scenario you mentioned before, in this scenario, he would not sit. Because the sitting is between the two sajdas. So it's only if you remember one sajda and forget the other. However, if you forget both sajdas, then you don't go into sitting, you'll go into sujood immediately, because that is the appropriate order of the obligatory actions you have missed. And in all of these scenarios we just mentioned, someone who forgets ruku', someone who forgets one sajda, someone forgets two sujood, in all of these scenarios, he would do sujood sahw after the salam. Unfortunately, I must stop here for today. Inshallah ta'ala, we will finish the text tomorrow. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين.